You might often see stories in the media about how China wants to invade Taiwan, that they are planning it, building up a military to do so, and that it could happen anytime now. But why? Why does China care about Taiwan? It's an island a fraction of their size, with a total population less than that of Shanghai alone, and one that many regional powers and the US said that they'll come to the defense of. So why would China even consider risking such a massive war over it? If you are Taiwan right now, you might be in the market to strengthen your military. Well, again, our sponsor Commando Store couldn't help them, but they are always getting new military surplus goods that are functional, durable, and accurate reproductions of the original equipment. Unlike other surplus shops, their gear is graded and sorted for condition, giving collectors and customers a better idea of what to expect when they buy. They also commission reproductions of gear that is no longer available, like the West German Polizei bomber jacket, the South African waxy boot, and an assortment of other cultural artifacts and accessories to match. With classic surplus drying up worldwide, Commando Store is making it a core value to preserve the historical and cultural significance of those era-defining artifacts, all while offering them at a higher quality and lower price than the average dusty surplus warehouse. Go over there, check them out, at least sign up for their mailing list. With it, you'll get 3 or 4 emails a month letting you know what's in stock, where it came from, what the history is, and some bonus humor. Also, you won't miss out on rare surplus, their limited run reproductions, or their off-the-wall sales. Go to commandostore.com/covercabal to sign up, and with it, you get 10% off your first order. Don't walk into another military surplus store just to spend hours digging through junk. Visit commandostore.com. To understand why China wants Taiwan, a quick history lesson. All of China was once united, and called the Republic of China. In the 1920s, communism arrived in China through the relations with the Soviet Union, who had itself at the time just gone through a communist revolution. As this new party, the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP, grew in numbers, clashes began between them and the government. This eventually escalated into a full civil war, which the CCP won, all except for the island of Formosa, what we now call Taiwan. Chiang Kai-shek, the leader of the Republic of China, retreated to the island as they lost territory on the mainland, and the original government of the Republic of China still remains there to this day. After the retreat to Formosa, most people, including the US, expected the Chinese Communist Party to invade the island. The US at the time said that they would not interfere with an invasion. This was in 1949. In 1950, however, the Korean War began. Later that year, as UN forces were on the offensive and quickly approaching the border with China, China decided to intervene. This changed the US policy toward Taiwan from non-intervention to one seeking to contain China. President Truman set up the Formosa Patrol Force, made up of elements of the 7th Fleet, to defend Taiwan. There have been a few small conflicts between the two Chinas since, but the overall situation remains basically the same today. Both sides still desire to reunite the two, and each also considers the other as part of their own territory, that is just occupied at the moment. The situation is somewhat similar to North and South Korea. Both want to reunite, but have a completely different idea of how to do so. One with the Chinese Communist Party in control, the other with the Nationalist Party. So this is one reason why what we call China today wants control over Taiwan. Both sides want control, but realistically, under the current circumstances, China is the only one that could possibly do it by force. That is, however, not counting support from other countries. Taiwan, along with an ally in the US, can pose a serious threat to China. While the US doesn't have any military bases or forces on Taiwan, they do sell weapons to them. In 2020 alone, the US sold over $5 billion worth of arms to Taiwan, including anti-ship missiles, rocket artillery, land attack cruise missiles, drones, communication systems, and more. A large portion of Taiwan's air force is made up of US equipment, the same with their army, which will soon include over 100 M1 Abrams tanks. They even operate several US Patriot air defense batteries, including PAC-3 interceptors, which are designed specifically to shoot down ballistic missiles. So, China sees this as the US getting involved militarily right on their doorstep, just 150 kilometers off their coast. In a way, it's similar to the Cuban Missile Crisis that the US protested so heavily against, as Cuba is also just 150 kilometers off the coast of the US. And just as the US didn't want Soviet influence so close, China doesn't want the US there. This is also why China so heavily protests and criticizes any talk of Taiwan independence, and even any arms sales to them. They fear independence could result in the US stationing forces, offensive weapons, and building air bases and naval ports on the island. Besides these concerns, there are also what you could call selfish reasons why China would like to control Taiwan. One would be to have a buffer zone between them and any potential adversary. Controlling Taiwan would also give China easy access out into the rest of the Pacific, something that is currently heavily blocked geographically by South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, and the Philippines, which form a sort of wall, referred to as the first island chain. Being able to reliably access the Pacific so much more easily would really help cement China as not just a regional power, but a global superpower. Taiwan also has a strong and high-tech economy. They are the world's largest producer of semiconductor wafers, something that is vital for production of everything from automobiles to smartphones. And China, despite their complicated relationship with Taiwan, relies heavily on them for this. Gaining control over this industry would be a massive win for mainland China. So, with all these concerns over Taiwan, and benefits it would bring China by controlling it, why haven't they invaded yet? Well, up till recently, it was unlikely that China would have been able to successfully invade Taiwan. Amphibious warfare is often stated to be the most difficult and complex operation possible. Even today, some people question whether China has the ability to actually pull it off, given the decades Taiwan has known about the threat and built up a military to do just this: stop an amphibious invasion. They have dug in, prepared defenses, and trained regularly to repel a Chinese assault. Also, Taiwan's friendship with the US and other nations which have said that they will come to their defense is another reason why China hasn't invaded, and would have to be extremely careful in doing so. They know that an invasion of Taiwan could quickly escalate into a much larger regional war. Then, not only would they have to fight Taiwan, but also deal with threats from all over the region, like that of the US, South Korea, Japan. It's possible even the Philippines and Vietnam might take advantage of the situation. China could end up fighting a multi-front war, which historically hasn't quite worked out well for the aggressor. And even if they can take Taiwan without any foreign military involvement, such an act would likely have extreme economic consequences for China. China relies heavily on profits from exports, which totals nearly 35% of their entire GDP. They also rely heavily on imports from those countries that have promised to defend Taiwan. Besides Taiwan, Japan, South Korea, Australia, and the US are their largest sources of imports. China also relies on over $100 billion worth of food imports each year, and a war could threaten all of this. Russia's annexing of Crimea, for example, was pretty costly. Sanctions followed. The Russian ruble went from being worth 3 cents at the beginning of 2014 to just over 1 cent at the end of the year, and still to this day, it's never fully recovered. Exports fell 30%, inflation skyrocketed, and their GDP shrank for the first time in years. Now, there were some other things that contributed to the Russian financial crisis, but the impact of annexing Crimea certainly played a large part. A Chinese invasion and annexing of Taiwan would likely have implications many times more severe than with Russia and Crimea. Many nations could end up embargoing China, cutting off all trade. So, there are many reasons why China wants Taiwan, and many reasons holding them back from taking it. For now, it seems that the pros are outweighed by the cons. However, as China continues to grow its military strength, that could change.